So, I am back to talk about Cluj. I mean, just right out the gate, I will say I thought it was a fucking really cool event. I had like a super cool time. There was a lot of attempts by external forces, let's say, to ruin the event, to bring the event down. The community as well, somewhat disappointingly, but it's, I guess, on the one hand, it's not really their fault because the community is generally populated by idiots that don't really understand big picture stuff. You know, they willingly participated in it. And it was kind of like, you know, a little bit disappointing, but ultimately when we got there and by the time we got to Cluj, like, I mean, it's all there on the camera. The event was fantastic. There was barely any tech issues. In fact, I think the only tech issues we actually had in the games themselves happened on the final day. There wasn't all of the audio, PGL audio guy stuff wasn't there. They made a bunch of significant changes. Not that that stopped people complaining anyway, as we'll get to. But so I'll kind of just start at the beginning. I didn't really know what we were kind of getting ourselves into when I went to Cluj, because it was ultimately, you know, we went there under a cloud, let's say. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on this stream. But that cloud was ultimately, there were a number of organizations that are essentially boycotting PGL. That's we have to call it what it is. And they are boycotting PGL because PGL won't pay them money. Because PGL, their belief, the way they do things, and we covered this on the video I just put out the other day from a previous stream, but ultimately what they believe is the right way to do things is when a team comes to their event, they pay all of the money to the organization, and then the organization distributes it as they see fit. Obviously, you know who these individuals are. Basically, what they want is appearance fees. These teams, these organizations, they want appearance fees to go to events. And that means that you end up with ridiculous situations that we'll cover later, like where you have Melbourne or Dallas, and ESL are advertising that as a $1 million prize pool event, but it isn't. 70% of that $1 million is going to go to the organizations, not the players. And the last time something like this happened, and I tweeted about this today, it was the PEA, where basically now organizations are telling players which tournaments they can and can't go to. And the last time this happened was PEA. PEA said if you play for our org, you can't go to an ESL event because you're going to be exclusive to our event. And players rose up like gamers, and they fucking said we're not going to allow that. And it eventually led to the creation of the player union, essentially. Now, that hasn't happened in that instance, and it made me incredibly sad. In particular, I'll give you some of the examples. So, Imma, right? Imma plays for Na'Vi. And Imma was there in Cluj. And obviously Imma's Romanian. PGL's a Romanian tournament operator. Cluj Napoca's in Romania with a mostly Romanian crowd. And so Imma wanted to play. You know, there's no getting around it. He put a statement out which was initially in Romanian before it got translated and kind of went mainstream, and I highlighted it in the last video. Imma basically said, like, oh, we can't play because we have these contracts signed at the start of the year which dictate where we will play. And as soon as that was put out there, Valve should have been like, hey, yo, what the fuck? Because this is meant to be an open system. The only thing that is meant to dictate where you compete isn't meant to be financial inducements. It's meant to be an open circuit. We were meant to move away from the partnered league. What it's meant to be is, hey, here's an invite based on your ranking. Do you want to come? And you say yes or no. And that can be for any reason you want. So anyway, Na'Vi, because of their bullshit, they said to a Romanian player, no, you can't have a once-in-a-lifetime experience of playing in front of a crowd that good in your home country. We're not allowing you to have that because we want PGL to pay us an appearance fee. Now, the community should be outraged about that, but they're not. Because the community would rather make 5 threads a day about the PGL audio guy. And I think that's pathetic. And I think it's very short-sighted. I don't think it's good for the scene. But, you know, that's just the modern esports fan, I guess. Anyway, equally as well, let's talk about Furia and Team Liquid. Furia and Team Liquid, both of whom are in the Americas region. Well, let's be real. There's not a lot of tournaments they're going to be able to compete in between now and whenever the fuck to get up in the rankings. And so that means that what's happened there is if those other teams from that region in attendance had gone and won, you know, like Pain, etc., and they had deep runs at the tournament, deeper than they actually had, they could be missing out on a major. So now we've even got esports organizations saying to tournament operators, we are willing to miss out on a major just to get fucking paid. Now, I can't believe Valve are happy with that. I can't believe that when you look at what that says about the major cycle and about everything Valve's given to the space, I think that's really reductive, and I wouldn't be happy if I was them. And yet, this is just being allowed to happen. Furia obviously were pressured at the last minute to drop out by the other, guys in the Enclave. And it was just really a shitty environment to kind of like, this is a tier 1.5 event. Like people in the fucking community were saying that. And like we're going out there and it's, S tier talent are at the event, right? All your favorites are there and me. And we go out there and it's like people are being really disparaging about it. Viewership wasn't great at the start, although the viewership at the end actually did break a PGL record. And it's crazy like how much shit PGL got for things totally beyond their control. Because what's the alternative? Like total capitulation? Just give them the money? Is that it? We're doing mafia-style shakedowns now, I guess. And that's what the community want. So it really sucked. But anyway, when we got there, we settled into the event. We did I thought, a really solid show in Bucharest. Obviously, lots of things had changed. We didn't have the Madonna mics. We were on stick mics instead. That was a change because, as I've explained, I'll put this out there because this is what these kind of videos are for. A lot of the time when people say PGL audio guy, it's not the audio guy, it's us. It's actually the talent. What happens is, right, you have a pack, right? Because it's wireless, the audio is wireless. And so you have a pack. You have a pack on your back. It's out of shot. And you have a microphone. Like the wire runs up the back of your t-shirt, and then you put the Madonna mic on and you have it round here. Now, the problem with the Madonna mic setup, and I don't know why they're called Madonna mics. I guess Madonna did use one, but so did a lot of, musicians and singers that like to dance while that's me dancing, by the way, like to dance while they were singing. So they're called Madonna mics in the business. And so anyway, areas where the Madonna mic can go wrong are if you have a beard, and let's be real, we're all neck beards, so we have beards, right? If you have a beard and the Madonna mic, right, once it gets beyond a certain length, like this, it will naturally scrape against the end of the microphone, right? It'll just naturally scrape. You turn your head, you'll get a kind of like that kind of sound. And you see, Madonna never had to deal with that because Madonna never had a beard. I'm guessing she probably does now. That's something that happens when you get old. So that's one problem people complain about, where it's the PGL sound guy, but it's not. It's the esports neckbeard guy is the complaint. Then the other thing that happens is that pack that's on your back. If you sit on it and it gets compressed in a certain way, like round the connector where the wire goes in, well, guess what happens? It makes a fucking scuff noise. Sometimes it comes out entirely. Sometimes it starts popping and as you're trying to talk over it. It's not the audio guy. It's me. It's whoever it's happening to in that moment. We're sitting on the pack because we're in a chair and we're trying to negotiate moving around with an abnormal pack on our back, right? So a lot of the shit that PGL got for audio, a lot of the time it was us fucking it up, right? Exactly. We needed to be on pack watch is what we needed, Jace. That's correct. And we weren't, because obviously we sit in a green room and we move to the studio between games. We come out ready to go live. And so obviously sometimes you're in a bit of a hurry. You get sat down, you're in like a weird spot. And you end up scrape in the pack or the wire comes loose. Not to mention, over time, at any given moment, the filaments, or whatever you want to call them, in that wire, it's being curled up, it's being folded up, it's being bent around your ears. All of that can break. It can just break down over time, and that can happen live, and then you've got to replace it. And then if you've replaced it, you haven't tested the thing you're replacing it with necessarily, so it can spill over. So a lot of the audio stuff with PGL just came from that setup, right? And so they went to stick mics, and it was fine. I mean, there was one audio issue on, I think, day 1 or day 2, which affected the casters. I think Machine's mic was cutting out. I think it was just as simple as an XLR cable. I'm not too sure. But they got that fixed, like, within, like, 10 minutes. And, yeah, everyone was doing the PGL audio guy on HLTV. PGL audio guy, PGL audio guy. So it's just fucking boring to see, like, people's priorities are like, live event, the sound is bad temporarily in a 14-hour broadcast, it's bad for 5 minutes. Fuck PGL, they should never have an event again. And that's where their head's at. People actively trying to monopolize the scene and preventing players from competing at tournaments they wanted to, because it's a matter of public record. Team Liquid didn't make the decision. Pretty sure they wanted to go. IMA certainly wanted to go. That's not a big deal apparently, but the PGL audio guy is. And obviously, yeah, when you say this, now I'm a PGL shill, so, what can I do? Anyway, the studio side of things was pretty cool. I don't really think there was any, like, big fucking stories or, like, talking points coming out of that. It was just basically a classic PGL studio event. By the way, I'm going to be back doing PGL Valahia. I'm going to be doing, like, PGL Valahia for the Dota, like, in about 10 days. So I'm back on the road, almost immediately. Back on the road again. So, it'll be a similar setup for that. I don't know. I don't think the talent announcement is out yet, but it'll be the regular Valahia guys, I imagine. So obviously I've got to do a ton of fucking prep work, because they've just done a massive fucking patch of Dota. So it's like, no. But anyway, so the studio side of things was cool. Then we, like, said, this was my idea, because we had this insane fucking snow in Bucharest. Like, it was actually crazy. Like, we had, like, a good, I'd say, 4 foot of snow on one day, like, just came down, and I loved it, because we just don't get snow in the UK anymore. We, like, global warming, that Chinese hoax that Donald Trump talks about, we don't get it anymore, and we just ended up with fucking feet. It was crazy. It was like around the side of the hotel where they hadn't cleared it. It was like, it would have come up to here on Blair, who's in the chat now. It was a lot of snow. There you go. It was like the most snow in Romania. It was like fucking crazy. So it was really bad. They had to keep, like, digging up the roads and everything. And obviously there was no, like, gritting. Every time we were getting a shuttle, we were like, the back skittering out. Like, it was pretty crazy. It was a lot of fucking snow. And anyway, I was like, well, this is going to cause havoc at the airport, right? Which it was. Tons of flights were being delayed. Because, it's when you have to clean all the runways and do this thing called clean wing policy, where, because you can't have any bits on the wing, even if it's something like snow, it's going to melt. You have to hose it all off with antifreeze before you take off and stuff. So it just delays everything. So I was like, listen, why don't we just get in a fucking van? And I also, I'll tell you guys the truth. I also just become utterly convinced that if we flew to Cluj, the plane was going to crash. I don't know. And I had, like, a vision. I was having, like, dreams about planes crashing. Probably just because I'm terminally online and I'm just watching what's happening in America. But I was just like, nah, guys, let's not do it. Because I just had this. All I could picture was an HLTV news post, and it was just a fucking obituary for everyone that was on that plane. And basically, we would have, like, lost 70% of the CS talent pool. I even messaged, funnily enough, I messaged, like, I won't say who, but it was a member of talent talking about how they were going to work an event. And I said, listen, if we fucking get on this plane in Cluj, we'll all be dead anyway, so you'll be able to work all the events. Don't worry about it. There'll be plenty of opportunities coming. So anyway, I was like, you know what, boys, I've got an idea. Why don't we do a road trip? And then I think it was probably Dust was, like, saying, you do realise that Romania has the highest instances of car accidents in mainland Europe? And I'm like, yeah, but, like, we'll be in the bigger vehicle, so it'll be okay. Like, It was Maui. Okay, my bad. It was Maui. I knew it was one of the fucking Americans. Anyway, so I was like, no, this is still a good idea. Now, obviously, what ended up happening was the van that turned up wasn't quite big enough to get all of us in. With the suitcases and stuff. I think PGL had booked a 20-seater and we got something like a 10-seater or a 12-seater instead. So Scrawny and Launder said, tell you what, we'll fly. And then everyone else bundled into the van. And so we had this road trip, which was quite nice, across Romania. Easy to forget that Romania is a beautiful country because all we see is Bucharest city, and we drove across all these snowy mountains. We were driving past these little villages that looked like Resident Evil 4. Right, modern SUVs. Like we saw this one, we drove past this one village, and by the way, I'm saying village, this is still kind of, we didn't go off the beaten path, obviously. We were on the highway for most of the drive. And we went past this village, it had about 20 buildings in it, and it was like every house was different, like a different shape. It was always like, these have been around for a while. But as you drove into the area, there was a life-size Christ on a cross in full colour. Like just a full 6-foot crucified Jesus. Like just planted on the roadside. It was like, oh, okay, well, we're in it now. So yeah, we were in fucking Dracula country, I guess, Nosferatu country. So so the drive was like super cool, and actually do like road trips with the guys, getting to talk, hang out. Airports are just shit. Give me a long drive across country, stopping at gas stations, over flying anytime. Anytime. So that was nice. And so we got there and we were pretty refreshed, and we got there early. We had a nap and we went out, and the fucking hotel we were staying in was absolute fire. Had this fucking Japanese restaurant in there that unironically had the best ramen I've ever had in Europe. And certainly it's not going to meet Japanese standards, and I've been to some American places that are straight fire as well. But like in Europe, yeah, this ramen was fucking unbelievable. It's very hard to stay on the diet plan for the entirety of the event as a result. We had a good time. Everything was immaculate vibes. Now, we do rehearsals. The stadium's great. It's obviously the one we went to in 2015, which is why I sort of wanted to do that like retrospective we did at the start of the show, which we did like a kind of a... we could have made it funnier, because what I didn't realize was I said, we should bring up the list of all the talent that worked in 2015 and see who's still around. And the only person who was still around was me. Everyone else, it was like Red Eye, dead now, of course. Sadakis, dead now, of course. Bardolph, dead now, of course. It was just all gone. Thorin, dead now, of course. Just all gone. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, well, we better not do a where are they now kind of thing. But I was the only guy left, and it was kind of funny. Obviously, Pimp was still a player back then. So that was kind of funny. And but it was the same. It was the same stadium we had the last time around. It's just it's undergone like a sponsor change and a name change since then. So I kind of remembered it, but the stage setup was really, really good and just looked like a much better setup. And so, we were pretty talked for it. It was a long day on the first day. It was obviously the 4 best of 3 day, which is usually tough on talent. And here's the other thing I should have said. Fuck, totally forgot about this. Obviously didn't see Trace. I haven't seen Trace for a long, long time, and Trace didn't get to do the stadium part of it, which is kind of sad. But it was really good to hang out with Trace. Like, I haven't seen Stunner in like probably before COVID, which is fucking crazy to think about. So that was really cool. It was cool to hang out with Trace after all this time, and we did. We had a long talk about some stuff, and good to see Stunner, doing work outside of the usual. So, but it was just good to hang, basically. But anyway, yeah, obviously we had this. This was the day, and we got kind of blessed with this because it was like the best of both worlds. Like a 4 best of 3 day is really hard on talent because it's like a long day. There's no relief host there, so I'm in the morning for the call time, and I'm the last one out the building as well. And obviously, they switch up casters. So they get a break, and analysts get switched up. But obviously, the curse of being a host is you're the guy that's there for the whole show, and like relief host, co-host, whatever you want to call them. I mean, they're a relief host to you. They're obviously co-hosting the show. They are their own independent entity and human being. So they are a host, but a co-host because you split the duties. That's a relatively new thing. People never used to pay for two hosts back in the day. That's like something that's happened in the last few years. That's like a 21 plus kind of thing. That was like so anyway. But we got kind of blessed on the on this day, because if you look at the matches as they kind of happened, we had a pretty cool this is the best scenario in my opinion from a talent perspective. We had a 2-0, but the 2-0 was close. And by the way, within the context of the tournament, I will talk about some of the results and what it all means at the end. We do all the anecdotes and stuff from behind the scenes. We usually front load with that. This is kind of cool, like a 13-11 is what you want. You get a nice close game that comes down to the edge, but you don't get all of the maps, because otherwise it's going to throw you off schedule, and this is going to be a really long day, and the tank is going to be unbelievably low. We had Astralis as well with a 13-8 and a 16-12. This was kind of cool. The overtime against the Mongols was really nice. We had a 3-mapper here, which, two short maps in a way, and then one really close one. I'll take that. That's pretty cool as well. And then it was FaZe versus Saw, and we kind of saw, the best of FaZe and then kind of the worst, and they struggled on Nuke. And by the way, that 13-9 is actually a lot closer than you would have thought. There was a couple of clutches in there. Could have really hung in the balance. So yeah, that was super cool. And the crowd came in at whatever it was when it opened up. It was 8 a.m., 9 a.m., something like that. And we had 50-60% or something in the audience on a Friday morning, which is and they were there for most of the day, and they cheered for everything. I mean, by the way, obviously, this is probably as good a point as any to talk about it, right? So we'll go back to Big Head. One of the best crowds I've worked with in 20 years of esports. Not hyperbole, not pandering. Let me tell you what I mean. So, first of all, when you're in a stadium and you're a host and you're on a desk, usually the crowd doesn't pay attention to the desk. They did a little bit in Copenhagen, which was great. Always good to get a pop and cheer and what have you. But generally they tune out. And this crowd didn't do that. So if you go back and you watch the days in the stadium, every time I introduce the show, and I'm staring at a drone shot of Cluj and Napoca when I'm doing this, and I'm doing a monologue before we get to camera, and then I introduce the guys. I say and welcome to PGL Cluj, one of the most beautiful cities in Europe, PGL Cluj and Napoca, for the PGL tour, whatever. And they cheer as soon as I come on camera. They're like, yes, right? And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is cool. You get to play with them a little bit and, do that. Then when we introduced the analysts, they cheered for the analysts on camera. Now that never happens. No one cares about that. I mute the desk between games. Not these guys. These guys cheered for the analysts. Dust Murray, in his first ever stadium event, although technically that Philadelphia one he did 10 years ago with the Kappa sign counts. That was Dust's last time in a stadium, by the way. That absolutely outrageous Reddit controversy, that was stupid as fuck. So he got a round of applause in a stadium event, his first on the comeback or whatever. So that's a nice feeling. Anyway, the crowd was super fucking into it and engaged. But then when we were doing segments and we were making points, if a graphic came up and it was Nico, round of applause for Nico and his stats. We were getting applause during the desk segment. Now, that never happens. Never, ever, never, never. It has never happened. Never. But it happened in Cluj and Napoca. And then I was doing these throws because I when I'm hosting in a stadium, I like to throw to the casters with just a little bit of a pop, just so they get some shine as well from the crowd, right? Now, usually the crowd applauds because it's just the fucking desk has shut the fuck up. We're going into the game, right? But I was doing these poppy little throws to the casters, like setting them up, bigging them up. And the crowd were picking up on it every time. They were like applauding for the casters. And then we did the thing for the last 2 days, I think it was, where the casters appeared, stood up on camera. There was like moments where we had this running joke where Sponge, I think the first ones to do it were Chad and Alex. And they like said, listen, if this has been a great game, it's time to crack a cold one. And so they had a couple of beers, like Ursus or whatever the Romanian beer is. And as soon as they got the beers out, yeah, the fucking crowd went nuts. They went nuts for the beers, and so that was that. So then we made that a recurring joke on the fucking segment to the point where we ended the desk with beers, which, as you can see, there we all are, like cheering. We've all got beers on the desk. It's Maui, Blair, and Dust, and we all got to like cheer the crowd on right at the end of the show as we were crowning Mouz the victory, So that was kind of cool. Anyway, it gets better with the crowd. So first of all, usually when you go to an event, by the way, this doesn't bother me, right? Because here's the thing. I hate esports fans. But if you pay a ticket to come to an event, I don't consider you a typical esports fan. I consider you a real fan. And therefore, you've paid your ticket, and you should get everything you believe comes with that ticket. And if that is an autograph from your favorite commentators and players, you absolutely deserve that. If that's the right to boo a team, you absolutely deserve that. You're one of the people in the ecosystem putting money in. You get to have an opinion. You get to have things. The fucking people who stay at home crying about how why is the tournament not better? Yeah. And they don't pay a fucking penny. Fuck those guys forever. Real ticket buying fans, you're the shit. Fucking love every single one of you. So anyway, some fans sometimes are a bit overzealous and they don't understand time, in the sense that I have to walk from point A to point B. I might have a desk, I might need to be on the desk. I might have 2 minutes to get there. So if you ever catch me a little bit rushed, or I'm still like pulling cables or straightening a collar or doing a tie, it's literally because I've probably stopped and talked to a bunch of fans, between the segments and going to the desk or what have you. And I've been to a lot of places, and in a lot of places, particularly Finland, where everyone's drunk, and Denmark also, where everyone's drunk, you do get queues and everyone mobs you, and it could just be a bit like, whatever, like fuck it, you just ride the lightning on that one. In Cluj, they were all super respectful of your time and super respectful in how they approached asking for an autograph, and every request for an autograph came with a compliment, sometimes a backhanded compliment, which there was one guy who said it was something like, don't worry about your age is just a number. And I was like, I'm not worried about my age. but he's being nice, obviously not his fault. But yeah, there was loads of that, right? There was loads of that, and they were just really, really cool. I don't know if you saw this. Let me see if I'll bring the video up as well, just while we're talking about it, because it's fucking crazy to me. I didn't get to do a signing, unfortunately, just because I was hosting the show the whole time. But when you look at, let me just show you this. And by the way, this is why it's even more of a crime that Navi didn't let Imma play. This was the queue for Imma in the stadium. For context, the shortest time for a member of the talent was about 90 minutes. Like, you were sat for 90 minutes to get through everybody. So, but like some of the other guys did 3 hours. Everyone was super into the idea of it. And obviously Imma and Jaxi, the Romanian CS streamer, they were like the biggest names in the building, for the Romanian community. And, like, their queues were like that. It was just insane. And this is what I mean as well. Like, now imagine that's happening next to a Navi merch store. You know what I mean? No? Okay, my bad, my bad. Good luck with that appearance fee, by the way. Like, just so fucking gross. Anyway, so that shows you how, like, passionate and committed these fans actually were, right? To, like, the idea. But then it gets better. It gets better. So not only were they really good and tactile and a lot of fun, and you could say things, they all spoke fluent English, they understood what was going on in the show rundown, they applauded for everything, you had the Cadian and Carrigan clap off, you had all that cool stuff. At the end of each night, and I have never had this either, right, not in my entire career, at the end of each night, hundreds of fans waited outside the building, and as the talent left to go back to the hotel, they would give us a round of applause every day. Every day. Like, it's just such a fucking nice feeling. Like, you know, they didn't harass you, didn't bother you, they just waited. You know, they were shouting stuff like, thanks for coming, we fucking love you here in Cluj. We hope you're having a good time. Just super awesome. Like, I even saw two kids outside the hotel, and because when we moved to Cluj, the talent and the players were all staying in the same place, and there were two guys, and it's freezing cold. The snow isn't in Cluj like it was in Bucharest, but you're still talking, you know, sub-zero temperatures on the night, and there was two kids outside, and they were like, "Oh, hey, you know, good to see you, Rich. Thanks for coming here, you know." And I'm like, who are you waiting for? And they were like, oh, you know, we just want to see some of the players, but we don't want to go in and bother anyone. We're just going to wait out here. If we see someone, we see someone, but we're just going to chill and hang out here tonight. And I was like, is there like a favourite? And they were like, well, we're big fans of Device. And I was like, okay, well, we'll go in and we'll, you know, I said, if I see him, I'll tell him to come out. No, I didn't see him. But in the end, they got their autograph, and I saw them the next day at the event. I said, I'm sorry I couldn't find him, and they were like, oh no, don't worry about it, we saw him. But that was the level of fans that you was kind of dealing with. You know what I mean? That was like the level of fans that you were sort of dealing with. They were just super respectful, super kind, super gracious, really, really friendly. There wasn't a single non-wholesome interaction, not a single awkward interaction even. They cheered the whole time. And you want to know what's crazy as well? Without Na'Vi being there, who's the home team? Well, it turned out they just cheered for really, really good Counter-Strike. And I couldn't help but feel, as I was watching it, I was like, you know what? You know when like you've been at those events and the crowd is like really flat, and that can happen at even some of the better events. I just thought about some of the things that have happened in the not too distant past. I thought about Rio and how shit that was, and how that community, G'd up by fucking Gaules, that community just ruined a major. Like, just flat out ruined a major. Like, it was, and all because a Brazilian team wasn't in the final. Like, didn't even turn up to cheer for Simple getting an award. All of the problems. I was just like, nah, that fucking stinks, actually. And, you know, I was thinking about all the excuses about, well, there wasn't a home team to cheer on for. Turns out you don't have to be like that, actually. Just saying. And then, listen, the other thing is I was thinking about recently, and I understand why Polish fans would do this, but the booing of Spirit, and I think about some of the other communities and their approach to how we interface with players and esports. I think about, like, I don't know if you've seen the video of the Chinese fans in Shanghai when Donk gets that fucking, you know, 5-man, and they go fucking nuts and they're all cheering like Donk's name and stuff. And I just thought, like, I don't know, man, like, that's just better, right? That's just like better for everybody. Like, you know, that's what we should be doing. That is esports for me. That's, if you had to distill the essence of what makes esports good, it's that. It's the fact that there's like a guy in China watching a video game he plays, watching a kid from Russia who's sick at the game play, and he can't even, you know, like, it just brings something out of you in the same way, like if someone scores a fucking 40-yard volley, like, you just can't, you just enter into like some state of delirium, and you're just like, oh my God, that you just can't believe what you see. That's the shit. That's what's good. And so, you know, I didn't say anything about the Katowice stuff, but, like, the contrast between Katowice and Cluj was great. And here's the thing, you're going to say, but Richard, you're a hypocrite because they booed Astralis. But okay then, let's talk about that. They did, and it was great, and I've got video of it, and I'm going to put that on my Patreon. But they booed Astralis in a playful way. And Cadian, who I love, Cadian did that interview, didn't he, at the start of the thing? And he said, like, look, I don't know why everybody hates us over this Mongols thing, but whatever, we're going to try and win you over. And on the first day, ton of boos, and I was loving it on the desk, obviously, as a Astralis hater, and I'm going to tell you a story in a minute that might get me into trouble, but whatever, right? The booing was kind of playful, but it was very loud and very apparent. And then Cadian sort of did the whole thing, and they in the end, Cadian won them over. The next day, when they played against Mouz, I think it was, the boos were less, but Mouz were the favourites. And then on the last day, when they played in the third and fourth place decider, people were really cheering for Cadian. And I don't know if you saw it at the end, but it was sick. Cadian, he was running, even as they were doing, it might have been the interview with the Liege, the losers interview with the Liege. Cadian was running around the stage. He threw his shirt into the crowd. The crowd were going absolutely nuts for him, absolutely loving him. And they gave him a standing ovation and a round of applause at the end. So, he came in as the villain. He played good Counter-Strike. He worked with the crowd, and he went away a hero. And then Cadian, instead of doing what a lot of players would do and just go back to the hotel and chill, he actually went on the Romanian stream and with Jaxi, and he sat and did an interview and was commentating the games and hanging out. He gets it, by the way. Cadian's always been one of the better guys with the media and understanding, its personalities that kind of sell the space. But the fans were totally into that. It wasn't malicious. It's not like in Katowice where, there wasn't a standing ovation for Donk at the end or whatever. You know what I mean? This was in good fun. This was in good spirits. This was the right way to approach this kind of thing. Falcons got booed a little bit and then became the home team. By the way, the cheers for Nico were just fucking out of this world. It's just how it is. So the crowd really helped make the event. And I talked to a lot of players. We were all in the same airport on a lot of the early morning flights. And all the players said the same thing, sick crowd. Which again, we get back to the point I opened up with, which is what a travesty to deny your players the opportunity to play in an event like that. What a travesty. For money. How gauche. What else? Oh, just one of the greatest full sends of all time in esports for me. Hold on. How could I leave this out, right?
I've seen you cheer for Ime as he has raised the Romanian flag to the top of Counter-Strike. Tonight, you wave that flag. You represent what Cluj Napoca has to offer. So we will shake these walls. We will raise this roof. We will roar!
Woo! It's getting hot in here.
Yep, turns out that scrawny guy is a bit fucking talented, isn't he? What a fucking legend. And obviously, I love working with Connor. Connor's one of the cool guys to hang out with. I mean, they're all cool guys. We've got a super sick talent pool right now. Whoever your favorites might be, I'm gonna just say this: the vibes were immaculate at this event, actually immaculate. And it used to be rock and roll. And, it used to be rock and roll back in the day when I came up, we were really partying hard at a lot of events, even as late as Stockholm 21, if I'm being honest about it. But, what's kind of interesting now is we had nights where instead of partying, we just play Magic the Gathering like a bunch of nerds. It's fine. We're all getting older now, right? It's fine. It's fine to just lean into what you are. And I used to mock the Dota guys for that, for being too fucking, chill. But actually, Scrawny came to this event with a bunch of Magic decks. And he taught Machine how to play Magic, and Blair how to play Magic, and Dust how to play Magic. And we were just chilling, saying, next time I'll turn up with a fucking deck. We'll have some Commander, And we still went out and we still were drinking and, on some nights. But the vibes were just immaculate at this event. It just was really good. I didn't even get sick. You know, usually I come back from an event, I'm fucking broke down. It was just really cool. Like, we got to hang out, you know, with people. And, you know, we had one night where it was just, we just ordered a couple of bottles from, like, a fucking, you know, on Bolt or whatever they use out there. And we just went up to, like, the mezzanine in the hotel. And we were just pouring drinks and just shooting the shit and telling esports war stories. And it was just cool. It was just a really nice chill event. Like, one of the just most chill events I've ever worked. Like, zero meltdowns, zero drama, zero anyone like trying to get their shit over anyone else. Totally supportive, you know, like the boring granular stuff you guys probably don't think about, but like obviously we talk about our work before we go to work, and we say, oh, we could do this, and you could try this, and you could do that. We do some theory crafting. Usually that's been kind of like a bit closed off, particularly in the caster space. Everyone's like super collaborative now. Like we all just fucking go, oh yeah, we do it this way, and this is why it works for us. And oh okay, yeah, shit, I might give that a try, and we do it this way, and we like to storytell this way. So it just, vibes were just fucking through the roof, like just unbelievably a lot of fun. I also have to say, and this isn't to, you know, necessarily to anyone's horn, but don't worry, I'm getting to the thing that might get me into trouble. Don't worry, we're getting there. But I'll also say as well, you know, I thought the desk was pretty good. I think a lot of people probably felt like, oh, once again, you know, Yanko's not there, whatever. I thought the desk was good. I thought everyone did really good work on the desk. I think we hit very good narrative points, and I think all the stuff we did, like with the new graphic package we put together, which I know Dust was tweeting about, just this stuff, which is, you know, for me, it's such a simple value add to basically be able to visualize, this is how the teams are going to shape up in the game you are about to see. And so these are the key matchups, and this is what their role is going to be. You know, we all talked about it like last time. Like, if you want to construct narrative, and now, by the way, I don't give a fuck about stats. You know that. Like, stats are tools for narrative, in my opinion. I don't think stats are their own thing that's super important. I think you use stats to tell a story. You use numbers to tell the story, but the story is the most important aspect, and you don't need numbers to tell a story. And so that's always been my philosophy of how I do desks. I don't care if you at home are a super fucking stats nerd, because the average fan isn't. And if you overload them with numbers and technicalities, they tune out. And I know that's true. No matter all these Reddit fucking morons that LARP at being like 25k plus Premier and a super high level understanding of the game, who say analysts don't know anything about the game. By the way, you didn't watch the Mahone Zone, did you? Yeah. That's why it's not on the show anymore. Right, okay, cool. Glad we've learned where it's at now. So either you're LARPing, which I know you are in 90% of the cases, or you're not a big enough block to really move the dial in terms of viewership. So these were really cool to like tell stories and set up key matches, and I'm sure like we're going to keep tweaking these between now and Bucharest, maybe so we can get them to kind of look maybe a little different, maybe add some different coloration in there. Although I think this is really elegant in its simplicity, and I'm not a graphic designer, so let's see. But these were, you know, really well put together, and you know, we've been talking about these for a while, and we were eventually able to get it over the line. Dust did the database. I think he updated the positions. There was some we didn't know because there was going to be like debutantes and stuff. But anyway, it's a starting point, and I think it'll obviously get better as we go along. And I thought these were like really good to work with. But overall, yeah, I thought the desk was cool. I like working with all of the guys. Obviously, Maui's my guy. Maui, by the way, was so fucking hard-working. He was doing his 2 games and then going back to the hotel and then co-streaming the other games because he's, like, trying to keep his stream on an upward trajectory. So he was, like, you know, putting in a lot of hours, and obviously the stuff you don't see behind the scenes is all the prep work and everything else. And then Pimp, you know, look, I've said in the past how, you know, Jacob would have maybe been one of the guys that wouldn't have made it into like my ideal desk if I could only take 4 analysts. And increasingly, this is like another event I've got under my belt with him, and it's like, actually, I do like what he brings. I think he's definitely worked on it a bit, and he's definitely better at putting out spicy takes right now. But also, I'm a bit mischievous, so I don't mind throwing up crazy shit to see if he'll catch it. You know, you toss stuff out there, and if an analyst picks it up, great. If they don't and they counter, it's still fine. It's okay for the host to look like a dickhead. I'm not meant to be the expert. You never make the experts look like dickheads, though, because that is bad hosting, you know? So I really like working with Jacob. I thought he was great, and he's just super chill and super easy to work with and very versatile. And at that event was ultimately the ex-pro, because even though Maui and Blair and Duster probably all played, and I know Maui played to like a decent level in NA, relatively decent, like ESEA or whatever. Pimp's the ex-pro, so you can ask it, and you need an ex-pro, you do. You have to ask them questions about that stuff, and so Jacob did that really, really well. And obviously Maui's great, and Blair's great, you know, and everyone's got their own different styles. And obviously, you know, look, this is now another event for Dust, and Dust obviously, he's coming from casting, and sometimes not even casting CS. And I've said it for years, and I think now people get it. I said for years, and you know this if you watch my stream, I said for years, Dust isn't a caster. He's not. His strengths are all the analytical color stuff, so he should be on a desk. But nobody wanted to take that risk, and you know, and honestly speaking, nobody wanted to be the TO to say we're putting Dust on the desk over a better known name, because like ESL make hirings based on Reddit, guys. I mean, that's the fucking truth. If you pop off on a Reddit thread, and it's why they do that fucking stupid thing they do at the end of every tournament. We are looking for feedback. Suck our dicks in a Reddit thread about all the things we did right, and maybe we'll do some of the things you like. And Dust has said for you, look, talent don't always know what's good for them. Dust very well might have said he thinks he's a caster. He's wrong if he thinks that. I know what works, and I'm telling him he's an analyst. And I think he's done really good work at the last 2 events, and he stamped his own style onto how he presents an analysis. And so I think it's been generally well received by the community, and now it's an extra thing to think about as we move forward, because we are about to have an inundation of new analysts if you consider Dust new. Dupree's been sniffing around the edges, doesn't look like he will be playing. Will it be permanent? Will it not be? We've got fucking Steel, right? Definitely going to be doing analysis this year. I'd love to work with Josh on a desk. Who else could be coming in? You know, there's going to be some player retirements. Steeko's around. I think, like, without saying too much, you might be seeing some of Zeus, you know? So, and we've got, obviously, like, all these other guys, you know, out there. And it's like an interesting time for the desk, you know? And so I think it was a good time for Dust to kind of stamp his authority, because the other guys are like, you know, they're in the S tier must hire category for me. Like, Blair's done a ton of events now. He's like, I think we were looking at it. He's done nearly as many majors as me. Like, he's on 5 majors now, you know. So anyway, I thought the desk segments were good and a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed doing them with the guys. What else? Oh, yeah, the one thing I was going to say way back when was I'm still hot. Every time I see Scrawny do well, don't worry, the story's coming. Every time I see Connor do work like that, and by the way, I thought just to obviously state the obvious, I thought all the casters did amazing work. Obviously, we had like Chad and Alex and Lawrence and Scrawny on site. Unfortunately, Harry and Hugo, who I always love to hang out with at events, they were doing like the online component of it. But every time I see Connor do something like that, I think, man, I was nearly the guy that fucking tanked his career. Me and Thorin nearly robbed the CS community of one of the greatest talents we've ever had, because we were just miserable old assholes. And I hate that. Like it actually keeps me up at night, if you can believe it. It fucking terrifies me. Like, for those who don't know the story, basically he used to be called the Scrawny Gamer, and he uploaded a clip to Reddit of him commentating his own play, and he said, I think I can be a commentator. And it went, it got upvoted, went to the top, and everyone was like, oh wow, you're really good, you could be a full-time caster. And obviously, yeah, shoot your shot. But then he did another one, and then he did another one, right? And it's like, yes, that's what you do, that's how you get ahead. Obviously he has to do that. And anyway, we picked up on it in an episode of By the Numbers, and I was like, I think I just, apropos of nothing, said, can this guy just fuck off? Like, it's getting desperate and pathetic now. And Thorin was like, yeah, fuck this guy. Because, Duncan's my wingman, and he's just coming along on that shit. Oh, are we hating on someone? Right, fucking let's go, And I've said it to Connor multiple times. Like, I feel like almost compelled to apologize every time I see him, because it is just so shit that we did that. It's just so disgusting we did that to someone. And obviously now he's like a staple, and it worked out. But there's like, as I say every time, there's like a fucking timeline that he gets jaded and goes, oh wow, Richard Lewis and Thorin think I'm bad. Guess I don't have a future in this industry then. And he walks away, and we just don't have what you've just seen, and it would just be like, fucking, that would just suck. So, yeah, absolutely. As someone in the chat says, in retrospect, you had a lot more better and suitable targets to shit on back then. We certainly did. And that's another reason that makes it like, it's just a kid trying to achieve his dreams, and there's me. Fuck your dream! It's just fucking awful to think about that. I was such a fucking asshole. Like, just such a piece of shit to such a cool person. But anyway, I've been thinking about it, like maybe writing an article called "The Importance of Not Being an Asshole." To kind of like just maybe try and encourage people to do some love maxing and mentoring on occasion. I guess, like, to try and put it in context, I had become very, very jaded because, you give a lot of your time to people, and then they fucking, they ignore your advice, or they walk away from esports or whatever, and you just end up. So we'll see. Anyway, totally glad he stuck around, because obviously we get to have the amazing Connor at events, doing incredible things. So, other stuff, other cool stuff that happened at the event. This was cool. I was talking about Cadian, the ultimate hype guy.
Back into a semi. Ancient separates them from grand finals.
And yeah, it takes a lot to get a bigger pop from the crowd when you're playing against playing against Carrigan, because Carrigan obviously knows how to work the fucking crowd as well. But it was just great. Just really, really fucking cool to see. All the players were fucking fantastic. And I guess we can sort of segue into talking about the results now as well. I thought we got kind of lucky in a way. And I guess, well, actually, before we even talk about that, Let's also talk about the fucking... We just had the best format of ever. This is just what the format should be, moving forward. Having for the rest of the VRS, just having the groups the way that we did into playoffs, single elimination, full best of threes in the groups, no best of ones anywhere to be seen. Everything was on a best of three. Which is as it should be. There's no excuses in MR12. By the way, just to further prove the point, we had a super long third and fourth place decider match and a best of 5 finals, and we were only 2 hours behind schedule by the end. This is just the format to do things moving forward. This should be Valve's format moving forward. This should be the format for every serious Counter-Strike tournament. Best of threes in the groups, playoffs with obviously best of threes into a best of 5 final, and because prize money dictates VRS points, third and fourth place deciders, never a need for another show match. You can do one if you want, but third and fourth place deciders are back because they actually mean something. I saw there was like a thread on Reddit today, and they were like saying, oh, looks like PGL have killed the show match for good. It's like, no. The VRS has killed the show match for good, because third and fourth place points actually fucking mean something now. I obviously was working in esports when we had meaningless third and fourth place deciders. They were fucking trash, just boring games. No one invested, fans not watching, didn't really mean anything. So this is it. Like, a show match should be like a total farcical novelty or to show off a new map. Players will never get the assignment. They either try too hard or don't want to do it. And so having a third and fourth place decider is the warm-up game, essentially, the starter before the entree on finals day. I think that's really cool. And also with the VRS, that was another thing we did. Narratively, we told the audience at home all the time on the desk, here are the VRS points. If they win this, they will go up 4 places. If they lose this, they will go down 2 places. This will take them outside of the top 10. This will push them into the top 5. What does that mean? Well, if you're in the top 10, you go into the major and you're going to skip a whole stage and definitely skip out on the fucking qualify. We told everybody the whole fucking time what the stakes were. And so people were invested in that. People understood. Shit, it's not just a third and fourth place decider for prize money. Astralis do need to win this fucking game. Way more than FaZe did. And it showed. It showed in the way that they played. So the format was fucking mega. But yeah, we got the results too, which was super cool. We got the results too, which I just fucking loved. Like, first of all, I'll say this. 2 things I said at the start of the tournament. FaZe have a 0% chance of winning. And everyone went, you're mental. Okay? And I said VP with Dark Horses to win the tournament. So I guess one cancels the other out. Because VP looked dog shit again. And it is crazy that with this lineup, they are this bad. Like, 13-2 against Mouz bad. And I can't quite put my finger on why they're so bad. People are saying, is it Flit? Is it Fane? I just don't know. I think Electronic just cannot be an in-game leader. No matter what Blade says, and we brought that up on the desk as well. Blade was like, oh, Electronic's going to be a fucking IGL, mama. It just didn't work. The T-sides are terrible. And it's not that the T-sides were really good under Jame. They were just bad. They were just bad for different reasons. Essentially, Virtus Pro are not Dark Horses for anything. They are dog shit. that's that. I'm afraid. So that was kind of interesting. But I honestly, with the exception of Saw, I was kind of happy with the teams that we got. My pick to win the tournament was Eternal Fire. I think they were pretty disappointing against Falcons. They definitely look good on Dust 2. I actually think Eternal Fire low-key are a better team than Falcons on Dust 2. The Train pick backfired horribly. They should have won this series 2-0. And when it went to Nuke, Nico just had one of his fucking takeover games, you can see here. We'll talk about Falcons a little bit at the end. But Eternal Fire for me, I don't know, man. They've got to win some trophies in 2025, particularly if teams are going to sit PGL events out because of their stupid little boycott bullshit. Like, they have to get one of these because there's just not going to be better opportunities. They keep coming close, and then it's just, I don't know, something's not right. They have too much firepower on their roster to justify not winning something in 2025. Like, it's the talent on the roster is crazy. That's how I kind of feel about them. Mongols, I don't know. It's just another fucking on-stage debacle for those guys. I was kind of a bit like, eh. So I didn't really like that. But Astralis winning was interesting, as I said. Then we had the Falcons FaZe game. This is when I knew. I said, Falcons are going to beat FaZe. I told everyone in the green room. And the reason for that was I do feel that they're in a very, very good spot right now. And I'll tell you why. So the big problems with Falcons going in are Dexter was playing really shit. No matter what anyone says, you can look at his numbers. They just weren't good. And Magisk is a bit flaky on CT sides. And it was kind of... those were very glaring, particularly when you're dealing with a coach that I think is a little bit behind the times still. I did see Zonic in the airport, and we were looking at each other, and I said, best of luck next time after the final. I'm always nice. You know, this is about narrative and fan engagement and creating storylines. It's never personal with me. So I did see the bag as he was getting a connecting flight. I said, better luck next time, and he said thanks, and it was all very nice and wholesome. So yeah, I think Zonix was a little bit behind the times, and when you're dealing with a relatively inexperienced IGL like Kixan, maybe that's going to be a problem. But what I will say is, whatever they've changed, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but I strongly suspect Kixan's getting more agency now. His mid-round calls, like when shit's falling apart, his mid-round calls are like really good. Like actually really, really good. He is definitely a very good IGL, actually. And I was like a little bit skeptical about that when he went from heroic. But what I saw at this tournament, I totally get it now. And so with Tezes, who still goes missing in playoff games, apart, sometimes, he's still really, really good and is playing pretty well. But the big level up has been Degster. And what was really interesting was Nico and Degster were like, they spent a lot of time with each other, man. And Degster did like a really fucking cool interview where Degster said that like he fucking loves being mentored by Nico. He was like, listen, bro, like, help make me a better player. He was saying, like, I look up to you. I've been following your game ever since I started playing. I think you're fucking sick. You blah, blah, blah. And, like, you could see Nico and Degster were, like, sat next to each other and just, like, hyping each other up and doing all of that stuff. And Nico's took on this more kind of, like, not a IGL role, but just a leadership role within the team. And it's really helped elevate Degster. Like, fucking... Group stage Degster was shit. Like, group stage Degster was like playing a 1 rating. Playoff Degster played pretty fucking well. Like, it was like 1.2 something. He was right up there. I think he might have been the best AWPer at the tournament, maybe. And anyway, he also did that fucking, like, cool interview where he was like saying he didn't think he'd ever have a crowd cheer his name. So it was pretty good. And yeah, he did go missing in the final. But overall, this was like a very good tournament for Degster and just a very good tournament for Falcons. Nico's probably going to feel a bit fucking aggrieved with how the final went down because he played like lights out until I think like the last map? Yeah. He didn't have a very good Ancient game, but he was like pretty fucking good across the series and obviously got the tournament MVP, which people were saying Xertion should have had it because Mouz won the tournament. Just on that note, I wish people would learn what most valuable player means. Like, MVP doesn't mean the best guy on the team that wins the tournament. It means the player that is most valuable relative to the team's achievements. And so other sports understand this. For instance, when you get to the end of an NFL season, the MVP doesn't, probably more often than not, doesn't win the Super Bowl. You can play unbelievably well and get your team to a tournament final, let's say, or a semi-final that they had no right to be in because you're just playing out of your fucking mind, clearly pound for pound, the best fucking player. And you don't win anything, but that doesn't mean you aren't the most valuable player. You absolutely are. And so most people understand that in sports. And listen, I thought for Xertion, this was like a breakout tournament in a lot of ways. I know you're going to say that's a bit of a weird thing to say. This is the best I've seen Xertion play in playoffs. I thought he took over whole games. Like I've never seen him do this on a stage. He was just running out on certain maps and just banging people the fuck out. He had an unbelievable tournament. He was definitely in the conversation. But when you look at the numbers, Mason, it turns out like fucking there's no argument to be had about who should have had the fucking MVP. It's like it was definitely Nico. These are the top players by stats that played in a minimum of 9 maps. And so he had the top rating at the tournament, the top HLTV rating. He had the highest ADR across 427 rounds. He had the highest kills per round with 0.81. His impact rating was 1.44. His kill differential was the best at the tournament with plus 80. It's like this is like how do you even argue about this like at this point when you consider as well one of the stats on here is specifically for AWPers. Like it's pretty fucking dominant and he really like played unbelievably well. I still think I don't know, man. Maybe he is cursed because he fucking played so well across all of the tournament. Had an unbelievable, like, home crowd. They were all loving him. And then it was just like, you fall at the last hurdle kind of again in the final. But funny thing was, I actually saw Nico at the hotel. I'm not going to talk about what we were talking about. But it was the first time I actually felt, and I told him this. I said, actually, I thought you were a fucking dummy to leave G2. But I think you might have made the right decision. And I'll sort of, like, he's... You have to understand the relationship talent have with the players. Like, we might criticize them a lot, but generally the players that get it, they'll come up and talk to you and say, like, good job, and, you all shake hands and we all go back to our lives. We like, traveled with Elige as well. We were, like, talking to Elige. Also saw Frozen in the fucking airport. It was super cool. Me and Elige were talking about, he's moving to Europe, obviously, for the FaZe project and stuff, and just catching up. And, I said to Nico, like I said, this is the first time I actually felt like you've made the right decision. You looked really, really good, and sure, some of the other bigger teams weren't here, but I don't think that would have made a difference in some of the matchups, frankly. That if Dexter plays like that, he's going to be unplayable. If Tezes plays like that, if he can find that, he's going to be unplayable. Like, it's just as simple as that. The firepower on the roster is there, and you've got a good young IGL, and things are starting to come together tactically. The problem is map pool at this moment in time. They're very good on some maps, but they're not elite on any map other than Dust 2, I would say. And, that's an issue. Like, you don't feel like you can guarantee a victory when they go on a nuke, even with Nico just playing insane, Dexter playing insane. But it's kind of sad that he didn't get a trophy here, because it would have been a vindication of the decision. But, like, look, obviously we know Falcons are going to sign somebody else. Munacy's probably coming to this team. I mean, let's just be real. Whether it's sooner or later, he's in his last contract at G2, last year of his contract. If there's a buyout there, I'm sure the Saudis will do it, probably after Austin. If I was a better man, I would say that's happening. And I think if you add Munacy into this team instead of Dexter, nothing against Dexter, by the way. I think he played really well at this event. But I think if you put Munacy in that team, I think they're fucking very, very scary indeed. And probably will be a dominant force in a way G2 never were. And I've told everyone, you just got to get comfortable with the idea of Falcons eventually being the number one team in the world. It will happen. It is inevitable. They will keep spending money. But on top of the money, if they sign talent of that level, then, put it this way, Prime Munacy versus unpracticed Simple, these are not the same things. And, and keep in mind, we very nearly had, there's also a world, I don't know if it would happen while Zonic is still coach, there's also a world where you could replace Magisk with Jimmy. I know he just signed a new contract with Mouz, but remember, everything's for sale if you're Falcons. We could have easily had Munacy and Jimmy and Nico on this team with Tezes and Kixan, and then, they're the number one team in the world. Of course they're going to be. So, I think Nico was, for me, clearly the MVP, and definitely deserved it. And a lot of people were like, but he lost the tournament. It's like, fuck me. MVP. Like, MVP. So, speaking of Jimmy, we also had the fucking hilarity of, let me just get this stuff up. There was this that occurred, if you missed it, right? I can't show you the first tweet that leads to this tweet. But for those who don't know, when we were at the playoffs, he retweeted onto his timeline like it was a fucking super long porn video featuring an Asian porn actress, and just retweeted it into the timeline. And once you've done that, by the way, guys, it's fucking GG no re, because someone's gonna fucking screenshot that. And then they did, and then it was on HLTV, and I'd love to show you the screenshot, but unfortunately I will then be showing you a pair of breasts on Twitch and I'll get banned. But anyway, someone was like, oh, motherfucker is gooning on main. And by the way, listen, I'm an old man. I still haven't really put together what the difference between masturbation, gooning, edging, like, is gooning distinct, different to masturbation? Someone told me gooning's like when you just do it for a really long time or something, but that kind of sounds like edging, so I don't even know. There's soaking and also, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. to understand, but someone did explain it to me. But then I was so horrified by the explanation, I deleted it from my brain. But yeah, this is just what happens when Zoomers grow up and their fucking TikTok brain rot is applied to sex. But anyway, so he retweeted that. And by the way, Dust had a fucking straight fire line on the desk. Dust, comedy doesn't come naturally to him, but he fucking said nothing about it. He sat there and he was talking about the performances of a player on Mouse. I can't remember which one. And he said, that's like total stats porn. And he said, that's like total stats porn. Like, not even Jimmy could resist that one or something. It was just fucking laugh out loud funny, you know what I mean? And so, anyway, we were referencing it on the desk because it happened, but we didn't bring up the tweet or anything because that would have been a bit excessive. But anyway, fair play to Jimmy. Like, Jimmy then tweeted out after the semi-final win, we're gooning all the way to the finals. Yeah, Zipnik's replied as well, with like what's on the menu tonight, right? Like, so the whole org lent into it. This is like a very G2 thing that happened. I wouldn't have associated this with Mouz, I guess. But they all lent into it. It was all super funny. And anyway, we get to the actual final. And of course, it's a round of Banks in the chat. And fucking Banks like literally says, you said you were gooning all the way to the finals. You've now been gooning your way to the trophy or something. And Jimmy was just like, yes, I like to goon. It was just like, it was so fucking ridiculous. But yeah, it was like really, really funny. It was like fucking actually like just kind of funny. And for a brief period of time, gooning was wholesome. That's how wholesome the overall sentiment of the tournament was. Anyway, back to the talking about the overall final. Mouz, obviously, it wasn't clean. Yeah, that was it. He said, I blasted my way through. That was it. Yeah. Jimmy said, I blasted my way through. Good for him. But, yeah, overall, the Mouse project, I didn't know what to expect because kicking Shuhei, I think they had to make at least the semi-finals at this event with this field to really justify it. Or, you know, they would have, if they'd made playoffs and dropped out, they would have, you know, if they'd only got top 8, I think they would have been heavily criticized for the move. The fact they went on to win the whole tournament, and it wasn't clean. It wasn't like they were amazing tactically on a lot of maps. They obviously had close games against like Pain and all this stuff. It was messy in some areas. But what I will say is, first of all, firepower. We're in the firepower era of CS2. Like, be under no illusions. Like, I don't know what it is, whether it's just because of the wide swing shit or whatever it might be. Firepower is just key. And if you want to win trophies, you just got to have firepower. That's it. Like, you can get away rizzle your tactics. Obviously, if you have firepower and an elite level IGL, right? You're going to win a fuck ton of trophies. That's what's going to make you the best team in the world, you know, like Na'Vi, for instance, yeah? But you can probably get away with having a weaker IGL, a more inexperienced IGL, just to lean into the firepower thing. And Xerxin and Spinks were fucking just mega. Like, Jimmy didn't have as good a tournament, but he got better as the tournament went on. But some of the rounds he had in terms of impact were fucking crazy. The nuke... The way they won Nuke, for instance, Jimmy is bottom of the scoreboard here, but he's got the lowest rating. But he did a round where he literally like walked through a smoke in Maine, I think it was, and then he turned around and basically like killed 2 of them, and he just walked past like a CT. They just walked past each other. Oh, it was Squeaky, my bad. Anyway, he got the kill. He got 2 kills, I think, off the back of that, and they just won him the game. Right, just there you go. So he's always going to be good value. Torji as well in the arena. He just is the fucking, you know, he looks like David Baddiel, but he's just fucking mega, isn't he? So, you know, he's been playing really, really well in 25. But the addition of Spinks, there's just so much firepower on this fucking roster. It's actually fucking crazy. It was just like, okay, well, fuck it. We're in the Brollan era. Now, the thing that really made this, again, wholesome and cool, every interview these guys did, they were like, Brollan's our guy. Like, we're so proud of him. Every time they won a game, we're so proud of our leader. He's the man. We're behind him. We listen to everything he does. Even Spinks was saying this. Like, you know, and he just got there. Everyone was, like, all over fucking Brollan. and really encouraging him. And it was like cool. It was like really cool to see because, you know, some players usually don't have the social intelligence to be that connective, but it was actually really smart. Like, I mean, like, you know, they've all really got behind the project, and it makes me wonder what the fuck Shuhei did. It really does. Like, what did he do that not only was it vital he was cut from Mouz before a tournament, before Katowice, and then not only that, none of the players have looked back. They've all said publicly in interviews, we didn't like Shuei's calling, we didn't like this, we didn't like that. We love Brollan. Brollan's our guy. I can't imagine what it was. And I know Mouz have said it's nothing he did. I can't believe that. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, you just walked away from one of the best IGLs in world fucking CS overnight to install a guy who's never done it before. I don't care how many clips of him as a 14-year-old kid you fucking bring up of him saying, I want to be an IGL, I want to be an IGL one day. Like, I don't give a fuck about any of that, because what you want and what you can do are two different fucking things. But, like, you know, maybe he never has to be a great IGL in this lineup. So it was very interesting, but I will say this is the perfect answer. If you make a controversial roster change, boom, you win the trophy. Biggest trophy they've won in terms of prize money, by the way, because it's like they walked away with $400,000 for this. You know, that's how you fucking do it. That's, yeah, $400,000. That's the fucking answer. So, and you did it on the stage. You did it in front of a crowd. So, huge response to the Shuhei fans. And obviously, HLTV threads, Shuhei come here, Shuhei come here, Shuhei come here, Shuhei come here. But this was their biggest win. So it's a huge statement of intent. And I'll say Falcons being in the final, huge statement of intent. I mean, you can look at the other teams. This was FaZe's to lose, essentially. That's what everyone was saying. Now, I'll talk a little bit about FaZe, and then we'll just get into like probably some Reddit stuff. FaZe need to fix their map pool. Like, it's as simple as that. It's a map pool issue. Elige and Frozen are going to be one of the best rifling duos. That's a given. What Elige has given Frozen by being such a good hard entry guy is unreal. Because Frozen's understanding of spacing and trading is some of the best in the scene. And so when Elige plays like hard entry like that, even if he dies, Frozen's good for 1 or 2. And their T sides were just crazy. The problem on FaZe, unfortunately, is obviously Rain is learning a new position. By the way, I thought Rain was great this tournament and clutch as fuck. Like, it felt like every time Rain was the last alive, FaZe were in those rounds. Like, you never felt for a second like, oh, it's done. You know, if he went for it, he won a couple of really big 1v2s that were nice. But yeah, we need to start a dialogue about Brokey, unfortunately. Brokey, like, I know he's a stats monster and his stats always look good, but when you watch him play, he whiffs so much. And it's just not acceptable. And I'm going to say something controversial and brave. I'm going to say, I think if FaZe... Like, Brokey's ceiling is crazy, right? When he hits everything, he looks insane, and his numbers are insane. And he's an MVP. He's a tournament MVP. His floor, it's just not good enough. And unfortunately, it's up and down. And you never really know which Brokey is going to turn up. And I've said this for years. Out of all of the tier 1 AWPers, he's the one who makes the most mistakes, in my opinion. So I'm going to say something stunning and brave. If FaZe had Torji, I think they win the tournament. Just saying. I think Torji's ceiling is nowhere near as high, but his floor is elevated when he goes to tournament, when he goes to stage events. And so the problem you've got right now is there was just too many rounds for FaZe where Brokey missed the first kill, got the second on the reposition, but if you hit the first and then get the second on the reposition, you win the round. And you have to be able to do that. You know, you think about, like, you know, obviously it's probably not a fair comparison to compare Brokey to Munacy, but why not? You're an S-tier AWPer, so, Munacy doesn't do that. Munacy hits both shots and then dies. Brokey, unfortunately, hits 1 out of 2 and dies, and he does it too often, and when that's the case, unfortunately, just the nature of the game, on the CT side, that second kill doesn't make up for the fact you missed the first. And so I think, unfortunately, that is the dialogue that needs to happen. I don't know if it's viable for FaZe to even replace him in any meaningful sense. I don't even think we live in a time where there's a lot of great AWPers, because I just don't think the game lends itself to that at the moment. I think for all the people that cry about, you see all these dickheads on Reddit talking about AWP abusers. Like, yeah, that's a self-report that you're dog shit at the game, by the way, if you ever use that phrase. But ultimately, I think all the nerfs essentially to the AWP and just how it handles on the CS2 engine. I don't think we live in an era of like monster AWPers. You've seen Wonderful have problems, by the way, as well. Wonderful, lots of people were calling for him to be cut and to bring Simple back, coming off the back of Navi's last event. So I don't know. I think being an AWPer is very, very tough, but you have to give yourself a fighting chance by being able to understand which fights to take, when to reposition, when to fall back, which positions to hold. By the way, it can happen to anyone. Device was kind of struggling. I thought he had like some very dubious performances for Astralis, like taking positions where it's like, you're one and done here, and that's not good enough. You're relying on a collat or something insane to happen, like when you play like in some of the positions he was playing. But yeah, it was, unfortunately, I do feel the deficiencies, it kind of felt that FaZe had everything just except that consistency. So that was the issue. And whether or not they replace him long term, whether or not that's even on the cards or viable or something they'd think about. But yeah, I think Brokey needs to find that consistency. Because I'm sure Elijah will light a fire under his ass. John will fucking he'll tune him up, man. If there's like more fucking series. I like it as well, like like it's not great, is it? When the new guy playing hard entry is your best player against Astralis, who you should be beating, and Brokey is below even Carrigan. Optically, that's not great. And yeah, of course, I keep forgetting Elish calls on the CT side as well and still had this fucking monster performance. It's just something to think about moving forward for FaZe. My hot take, because everyone's like, oh, which hot take? I don't think FaZe win a trophy in 2025. Certainly not in this season. Certainly not in the first half of 2025. I don't think they're good enough to win a trophy with the teams that we have right now. I think they are... they're a lot of fun to watch, and they've got some great players. But I just don't think they have the it factor right now. I guess we'll see. Keep in mind, Elige played like that while having the stress of moving to another country. So, I'll give John all the credit in the world. Like, he's playing one of the hardest positions. He's playing the hardest position in Counter-Strike. And he's, doing it while he's, like, moving continents and upheaving his life. So... fair play to the motherfucker. He played really well, and definitely impressed me. He did better than I thought he was going to do, and I thought you all heard me say that's the natural move when Rops went. So we shall see. But overall, games were bangers. There was a lot of great maps here, and we got to see some teams we wouldn't ordinarily see. And ultimately, we got rid of pretty much the... I don't want to be cruel, but not the deadwood. That's like a really fucked up way of framing it. But the teams that you were expecting to go 3-0 kind of went 3-0. We got rid of them early. The only really the big surprise was Saw making it to the playoffs as a dead team. So, I'll tell you the controversy thing as well, because you all want to know about that. Basically, I don't know who it was on Astralis, but we said on the desk, because Device got sick. Now, I don't know if it was just food poisoning or adrenaline or whether it's part of his ongoing health issues, because obviously, it's well advertised. I'm not speaking out of turn. He did just have a break for Shanghai. And anyway, we mentioned it on the desk because you saw on broadcast he left the stage. And it's my job on the desk to explain why that happened. And anyway... basically, someone on Astralis said they didn't like that we said it on the desk. They got upset. And they were like, That's got to be off limits. It's got to be out of bounds. And obviously, Astralis have a history of doing this. Astralis have a history of, like, you know, it was Astralis that complained to Blast when Duncan tweeted something at Device, and basically they said to Blast, tell Duncan not to tweet for the rest of the tournament or we won't play at your tournament, you know, all this stuff. And Duncan said, you don't get to own my Twitter. You hire me for the job. And ultimately, they were like, just don't mention it again. And I went, yeah, fair enough. We won't mention it again. And then Cadian, in the fucking interview, what's the first thing he says to James? He says, oh, yeah, it was really a hard game for us because Device had to get off the stage and go and puke. And I was like, fucking hell. And let me explain to you, right? It's not even that Astralis complained, right? Whatever. You're trying to protect your players. Maybe it's the type of thing I would do if I was a fucking manager, right? Maybe it's the type of thing I would do if I was a manager to protect my guys, right? So I'm empathetic. I understand. I put myself in other people's shoes when I think about what's an appropriate reaction. By the way, I didn't push back, didn't complain. I just said, okay, yeah, no problem. No problem. But then Cadian did it. And so you know what that tells me? They got upset about the talent first and complained first. And again, I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was an executive. I don't know if it was Rugger. Obviously, I know Casper, but, you know, again, you got to protect your guys, respect it. But anyway, they basically thought to complain first before they told their players, don't mention it. Like, guys, like, this is crazy now. This is crazy. And so, obviously, that's why Maui on the desk said, obviously, we know that Device was sick because Cadian told us that. And so we don't know if that was a factor in their performance. And I was just going to leave it. I even said on the desk, I don't know if he was sick now. Maybe I was wrong. And then Maui was going, well, we know he was because Cadian told us. And then Maui said it again. And yes, we're aware because of what Cadian told us. And he just kept saying that. And I was like, trying not to laugh. But that's why we did that. It's probably a bit self-indulgent working on the broadcast. But it was just like, the vibes were just so immaculate. Everyone was really swinging for the fences and trying to do good work. And it was just like, come on, guys, like, it's the most well-known fact about, like, if you're a new fan of CS, and I had to ask you, like, 3 things about Device, you're like, yeah, he struggled with some health problems lately. That's what, you know, that you would know that. Even, it's not like some dark secret. So, yeah, that was the only shitty thing. And as I said, Cadian obviously inadvertently bailed us out. And Maui then was hilarious. So, by the way, I hope it was just like a temporary food poisoning thing and not an ongoing problem. I've got a lot of respect and love for Device. I've known him a long, long time, and I've had the pleasure to watch him grow up and play and be this amazing guy and in the GOAT conversation. I don't want him to be sick, you know. It's not like some cheap talking point for shock value on the desk. I'm trying to do it to explain to people what a good win it was. You know, it's like, wow, they fought against, he had illness and he had to leave, and then they came back into the game, and he played really well in the last map despite being ill. That's what I was going for. I was going for, like, the epic angle of it. And Astralis, I don't know. Like, because also, just on this note, right, the hater ball thing, nobody complained about that. Not Falcons, Astralis, no one complained about the hater ball. There was, like, people on Reddit, like, saying, like, well, I don't really know if you should be roasting the teams. Everyone, right, the cultural impact of this is everyone's been hate viewing Astralis. Everyone's been hate viewing Falcons. Viewership goes up because people want to hate on those orgs. Basically because they've got a lot of money. You know, we all know where Falcons money comes from. We all know what Astralis have spent to have their team. But also because there's been this, like, comedic ineptitude and so around Astralis. And so people hate watch. But then when they win, you hate watch again and again and again. And people are even saying, like, all the Reddit comments. Let me just randomly see if I can find you one just to show you the example. This is the Falcons FaZe game, right? And let's just hate, right? So look, the hater's worst nightmare. Haters lost today. It's a certified hate max. By the way, I'm not claiming credit for this. I don't want you to think I'm claiming credit for the concept of hate watching. I'm not. Also, Launders was doing it before anyone really was with his hate maxing segments that he had on his YouTube videos. Follow Launders on his YouTube channel. But this is like something that helps us build narratives, right? Like, and it gets fan engagement and people are on the shit. Look, hate max a convention. Why hate without seeing the whole picture? Listen, I'm a Falcons org hater too. Hate the org, but lots to like on the team. I hate the organization. Just so hate watchers. This is hate watchers 9/11. Like, the whole hate watching concept, right? It's not because I want people to, like, bang on the org or whatever. It's because I want to create that fucking narrative that if you watch these guys and you want to watch them lose, then yeah, it's great when they do, but it also, like, fuck you, fuck the haters when they win. And it creates this nice little back and forth, a little you know what I mean? That's what I'm going for. And so when we had the Hater Bowl, where Astralis played Falcons, and I was kept joking, like, there's only losers today. It was a good thing. Nobody complained about it. Nobody thought it was too far, right? And it was just like, yeah, even the vibes were good and all the booing in the stadium. I was not expecting that would happen for Astralis. But then it was cool to watch them win the crowd back, and they got a third place, you know. And as I said on the desk, they've been so bad for so long, a bronze medal will feel like a world championship. You know what I mean? They haven't had a fucking sniff of a trophy in years. And so just fantastic stuff. You know what I mean? I was really enjoying it. In fact, actually, there was also, like, just to show you the fucking... You know, people were starting to get curious about it. People were getting hate curious, like being bi-curious or something, you know? Like, fucking, here they go. Like, why does everyone hate Astralis and Falcons? And like, it got downvoted, sure, because of course it did. But everyone's, like, just saying, like, you know, here's the hate. This is why we hate them. We hate them. We hate them. We hate them. Even the hate was wholesome, is kind of what I want to say. And I just thought it was just fucking really cool. It was a great event. I had a really good time. I think we are going back in 26. Can't wait to do it. And it was just fantastic. It wasn't an exaggeration, as I said. Best crowd. The event was great. The PGL production deserves a lot of credit. They put in a lot of new elements, and it was a very good show, done well, with no problems. Apart from a couple of tech delays on the last day, no fault of PGL's, just had to swap a computer out, a mouse broke, we had to swap a mouse out, you know? And we did it. It was really, really good. Now, let's just do this. This was the esports stats charts. Esports stats. I think this is, like, mega under the circumstances, by the way. It was the most popular PGL non-major tournament, and we did that without, like, Liquid being there. There was no Liquid, no Furia, no Na'Vi, no Spirit, no G2. The peak viewers in Mouz versus Falcons was 539,700. Landmark stuff, despite everyone's efforts. In fact, let me also just show you. This was Silviu, obviously the CEO of PGL. He was replying to the full send from Connor. And you can see, like, this is Cluj, Napoca, this is Romania. We finally decided to run an event with an audience in our home country, and we were all blown away. By far one of our best events ever. We will continue to run CS2 events, despite concerted efforts from multiple parties to stop us. Counter-Strike is a global phenomenon, and any single company that will try to monopolize it will simply fail. Our next arena event is in May in Astana, where we expect another sold-out arena full of Counter-Strike fans. And yes, boys, it's happening. I'm terrified. I'm gonna have a fucking 11-hour flight to Kazakhstan. I'm scared, but I'm gonna do it. But I'm scared, but I'm gonna do it. But scared. And no, I will not be referencing Borat at any point during the show, even though the Kazakhstani official tourist board does do that. Their official phrase, I believe, for coming to Kazakhstan, in particular Astana, is just, is nice. Or very nice. That's it. Very nice. My bad. So, you know, they can do it. It's their word. Nice is their word. I'm not gonna do it. Anyway, let's go through some of the Reddit responses. Because overall, it was very positive, I thought. There was a lot of shout outs. I mean, there was this, right? I saw one really stupid complaint. It got downvoted, so it doesn't matter. But, you know, check in Reddit at the end of the day, see what people liked, see what people don't like. That's how I roll. And there was this PGL broadcast, no very less replays. Is it a conscious decision to show replays of kills from different angles of kills only once in about 5-6 rounds? Because it sucks massively. I know the observer can't get all kills due to multiple fights happening at the same time, but that's what you use the replays for, to showcase how stuff went down after the round. Almost 4 consecutive rounds now. This is happening. You know, 4 rounds without a replay, guys. This is really bad stuff. Stan got a kill with the scout, which was unseen and surprised Scrawny and Launders. Hope to see a replay, but nothing. Next round, he gets a USP kill, but not shown. Again, no replay. Next round, Senzu hits a banger AK headshot on Device holding up on B Inferno. Saw the kill from Device's perspective, but hope to see what Senzu saw on the replays. Nothing from the broadcast. This is ridiculous. Now, the problem with this kind of feedback is you would need to fit the replay in at some point while the game is still going on. You would, and so that's just not always viable, is it? Because the live game takes precedent over the thing that just happened that you want to see. And by the way, what he obviously isn't aware of, if there's anything like that, it goes into the highlights package that we show on the desk. So, I thought this was silly, but it got downvoted, so I guess everyone thinks it's silly too. Trying to think if there was any other complaints per se. Let's see. We had, people like the trophy. I was expecting them to hate on the trophy because, but I like the trophy. It looks like the Witch King of Angmar's helmet. Works for me. Thought the trophy was good. It was modern. A break from tradition without being blast. Without looking like a Dorito-themed butt plug. So that was good. The Nickelodeon Gunge trophy. So I thought the trophy was good. People liked it. Way better than the Copenhagen Major trophy. Which, like the design. Best one in a while. Porn stars will accept this challenge. I think we just found Jimmy's burner there. So that was fine. We had this. Big fan of these graphics PGL has been putting out. This is fantastic context to display. This is what I was talking about, how we're looking to build narratives around the VRS. The VRS, right, even though tournament organizers don't like to talk about each other's tournaments, right, and it gets especially dodgy if a tournament is sponsored by a gambling site, because then you have to say the gambling site on a broadcast sponsored by another gambling site. So, for example, 1xBet sponsored this one, and it's like, well, can I call it Thunderpick or Bet Boom or, whatever it might be. But anyway, shout out to HLTV for enabling us to pull these numbers. And this was a really good addition by HLTV. The VRS has to be the most important thing that we talk about narratively because it gives games that seemingly have no stakes, and that's good. And if that and so it helps people get invested. And if you can show with just a clear graphic, hey, if we win this, we're going up to here, and if they lose, they're down to here. This is really important. So this is, obviously someone went, it's on HLTV. But it's the graphic on the show. And you see amazing graphics and production, way better than the shit ESL put out during Cato, minus the skits. Praise for PGL on Reddit. Wow, what the fuck? What day is it? What's happening? Okay, this was Crowd is Wild. And you're going, wow, yeah, the crowd was pretty fucking wild. So this is going to be like a clip of the crowd going wild. No, it's going to be people holding up their phones. And can I also just say, guys, in the Cluj crowd was so good. There wasn't one inappropriate or weird fucking thing held up on a phone. Do you remember in Katowice, someone held up a sign and they showed it on broadcast twice, by the way? Ban all Russians from EU. What? How's that fucking appropriate, guys? That's a ridiculous thing to show. But, shown there. By the way, written on a fucking DHL sign. Wicked sponsor activation, ESL. You've done it again. DHL says, fuck Russia. Oh, well done. Yeah, we'll show that twice, shall we? Dickheads. Anyway, this is porn star Johnny Sins, I believe, over there, being compared to Elish. And then we had another one, and it was Mr. Proper Universal being compared. Other comparisons included Voldemort. In fact, anyone in the world who was bald, from fiction or history, was indeed compared to Elish. On top of that, I'll tell you a funny story. Probably not funny, but I'll tell you a story anyway. I was going to tell it on the desk, but then I realised the game was kind of more important and it was wrong to monopolise desk time with this. But I saw a lot of people on HLTV and they were going, why are Romanians showing cats? They're showing the cats. They're showing the dogs. Why are they doing it? Right, why? And the replies were going, we just really like cats in Romania. And people were replying, well, we like cats here too. Right? So what was going on? Well, let me tell you, right? Here's something you probably didn't pick up on at home. I didn't, and I was there at the show, so maybe you missed it. A guy tried to hold up like one of those word signs, you know? And it was like fucking, you know, like I love device or whatever it would be, you know, right? But his phone locked as he went to do it for the camera, so it just said locked phone, you know? So he swiped, and instead of it bringing up the sign, it just brought up a picture of his cat. So he looked like a right dickhead, right? But the crowd was so fucking dialed in. This is why it was the best crowd, like, ever. They all started in solidarity to show the cats, their cats. And so we had days of just people holding up cats. So that guy didn't feel that bad. So that's what was happening there, in case you weren't aware. Another thing that PGL did, they were showing view models, crosshairs, left hand. That was all going out. People like that. Shout out to PGL for displaying left hand and stuff, because obviously there's a setting for tournaments. You can press like a button and it just displays the default. A lot of people prefer to use that. There's this whole thing, by the way, going at the moment where professional players are all switching up their view model based on it's Big Azira's view model. He's changed it because, I don't know, he helps him go see both ways or something better, in his opinion, and people have started copying it. So that was like happening, yeah, like Immer and Big Azira, yeah. I mean, is it the same as Davy's view model? I just play default, so I don't. Is it the Davy model? It's actually the Davy model. So yeah. But anyway, more and more players are starting to use that, which was interesting. We were gonna maybe mention that on the desk, but again, there was just so much other cooler stuff going on. But we nearly did a segment on that. Well, shout out to Davey, ahead of the curve as always. But anyway, people like that, they were like, oh yeah, cheers. We like this. You're doing good things, PGL. Maybe the subreddit doesn't just have to be an ESL glaze fest the whole fucking time, especially when ESL do shit things. Then we had this. Look at this. Thanks, PGL. Thanks. Thank you for hiring the best analysts. Richard Blair and Maui Snake. Now, this thread could have also been called Fuck Dust, I guess, but more on that in a second. Richard Blair and Maui Snake. I know that Richard and Maui sometimes have controversial takes on Twitter and get hate for them, but I like them on the desk so much. But look, and Dust, he's been good. And there's Dust, of course, replying to all the Reddit comments mentioning him like he does. Cheers. It was an amazing event. These analysts are fantastic, including Blair. Also one of those backhanded compliments. And it was because, like, if you mean me, I'm not hating. I just don't like him. That is hating, by the way. That's 100% hating. I'm not hating. Like, that's like that fucking North meme. Not racist, just don't like him. Not hating, just don't like him. Yeah, that's hating. Yeah, you hate him. Simple as. It's just a ridiculous thing to say. Like, don't like Blair, because that was the guy from above, but Richard and Maui are great. I like Richard, but the way he treats people who disagree with him can be obnoxious. I mean, yeah, because you're wrong. Oh, of course, anytime I mention now, Richard says there are no cheats. Get used to that. But anyway, thanks PGL for hiring the people that worked the event. That never happens. So we actually saw praise for a PGL event on the front page of the subreddit. Now, I'll also say, because everything was so wholesome and so good and so nice, this guy made a thread to say, listen, let's show love to all of the talent. Oh, and by the way, will say, since he's here, James did a great job at the hype throughout the whole event. Really worked well with the crowd the whole event. Great stuff. So anyway, this guy made a fucking super long thread talking about all of the people in different roles, right? He did praise Bubsky, but, you know, it's fine. It was a love thread. It was wholesome. Everything was wholesome. Listen, look at this. He's done like a little mini bio for all of the people, even the observers, including the mighty Chev. Yeah, it does say Maniac redacted, but it's fine. He's gone. You know, look, it's like super cool. I'll just read one. Go on, I'll do Blair. What an underappreciated and undernoticed asset to the cast. I always find his performance very engaging and insightful about the current meta and team performance metrics. I rarely see him get his flowers or his thorns from HLTV in general, and I think he should be talked about more. What does the Lawners one say? A genuine and kind hate watcher and proud racist. Many people say he puts them to sleep, but I find his colour comments serene and informative. He might not have the most active voice, but he demonstrates time and time again insights into current round and post-round plays and overall strategies that helps paint a picture of the overall intent of teams. Right? It's all good, isn't it? And then, somebody said here, replace RL with Thorin. RL a disgrace who attacks young players again. Come here, you young players. You fucking, how dare you? How dare you come to my event? You know the fuck I am. Right? Not a good look. Right? Then, this is a place for love, not hate. Thorin was a miss on my part. Regardless of his controversial way of going about it, his interviewing and knowledge of the scene is really unmatched. He constantly has some of the most interesting and engaging interviews with people that historically were reserved and didn't do interviews well on broadcast. The ability of him to open up even the most closed talent is crazy. I think him as an interview host would go crazy on some casts. Richard Lewis does an amazing job currently, and the RL Thorin Maui Espo cast was some of the best fun I've had in a while. Nice try, R. Lewis. Then, Brad Bate, remember him? One of the mentally ill people. Like, what is it, Black Dogs 22, Brad Bate. You know the guys. You know the fucking people who are obsessed with me. Except Richard Lewis in his cult. Good read. However, I'd argue there are a few things that you haven't highlighted, such as, of course, Richard Lewis's online activity. What's that? What's my online activity? Like, yeah, I'm active online. What does that mean? What does that mean? And then look, another one. I kind of appreciate R. Lewis and Thorin on the desk. Honestly, whatever they may engage on social media and whatnot, I learned over time that if you disassociate those comments with the persona who's working the shows, oftentimes you'll get a better experience. I don't post on Twitter anymore. I just post links to my work. My timeline is like, it's been this way for years. I get it. You're idiots, and there's more of you than me. Fine, you win. Your rules. You might get blocked occasionally, but I won't try and change your mind. It's a waste of time. Waste of everyone's time and energy. If I need to farm content, I'll reply in the YouTube comments. That's it. That's about it now. Just crazy. But anyway, that was it. That was the extent of the negativity coming out of Cluj. And to be honest, it couldn't even bring anyone down. Everyone was just vibe maxing. It was great. It was a great event. Super happy. And hopefully, people are now going to start to realise the pieces on the board, which is, unless you want that functional ESL monopoly and where everyone is controlled by Saudi money, and by controlled, I mean the threat to remove said Saudi money, then support PGL. It's kind of like the last Free Nation of tournament organisers at this point. Even if you think they do a shitty job, you want as many tournament organiser alternatives as possible. And, you know, listen, I'm obviously going to keep working with them right the way through to 27. I mean, that's moot, because I'm terrified of this long flight to Kazakhstan. I'm super scared. Been super scared ever since that thing happened to Azerbaijani Airlines. Now I'm just terrified. But I'm going to risk it. I'm going to risk it for esports. And now, even now, in my brain, I'm seeing a clip of this being played in black and white on some, like, obituary fucking show for esports worst person. And on that note, we can wrap up that segment. Cluj was great.